that are brewing up in Houston with CJ Stroud now as their franchise quarterback. And not to mention, too, they've beefed up the defense. They got a defensive-minded coach who's a players-type coach. There's a lot of things to Bleav with the Houston Texans. And so to joining us, Ruben Gamez is going to be joining us talking about them Texans. Wow, what an off season that we've had with the Houston Texans, man. So I'll start with this.
What's going on?
In comes D'Amico Ryans, a former Texan player who is a player-type coach. He's a guy that really, like, even when you watch former players be coaches, Antonio Pierce, what he's brought to the table, players buy in. I feel like last year, players bought in. It was young. They're building from the ground. And CJ Stroud, man, once he started finding that stroke, I'm like, this kid is insane. So with recapping what last year gave us and winning a playoff game, Ruben, this is a team that I feel like, because it's a Houston blueprint to me, in my opinion. I felt like the Astros did this to where they had a couple spurts of like not making the postseason and such, and then they acquired draft picks, and then they finally hit. And then who knows how the Rockets will be. I feel like they're going to be in the position they are going to be in this one too. But the Texans, man, it feels like there is a lot of stuff brewing up in H-Town here this year, right?
Man, it's up here in Houston. And the Texans, like you just said, we're kind of the blueprint. Right now, it's like the Texans and the Rockets. I'm glad you mentioned the Rockets, right? Young core, young coach. They were 41-1 last year. It looks like they're trying to get into the postseason with the Houston Astros. I mean, it's just a dynasty. Hey, we were 10 games out just a couple of weeks ago. Now we're back in first place. But man, it's crazy how this whole franchise changed, because let's be honest, Snake, at this point last year, no one was this hype about the Houston Texans, right? If we even go back further, remember, we lost the number 1 overall pick. We were said we can't lose correctly. Don't go to the Houston Texans. They're a horrible organization. Then you did the right things, right? And I think it was, a change of the whole franchise, because it was ownership as well. It was Cal and Hannah McNair. There was this famous photo of Hannah McNair. We love her now, but there was a photo of her passed out at a Houston Texans blowout. We were going to blow out. She was passed out, right? We thought no one cared about the Houston Texans. And then boom, D'Amico Ryans comes in. Then boom, CJ Stroud comes in. Then don't forget, we do that trade up for Will Anderson Jr. I was at the draft party, and the crowd erupted for CJ Stroud. The trade up and draft of Will Anderson Jr., the reaction was even louder. And here's the thing, man. No one expected the Houston Texans to do what they did last year. You had an offensive line where they didn't start one game together, the projected starters. You lost Tank Dell. You lost Noah Brown. You lost Robert Woods. Damian Pierce, he wasn't the running back for you. It was Devin Singletary. So there's only one outlier in all this, and it's the quarterback number 7. And, man, you mentioned the offseason. We were the first team in NFL history to add a 1,000-yard rusher, Joe Mixon, a 1,000-yard receiver, Stephon Diggs, and a player with double-digit sacks. But it's 2, because it was Danielle Hunter with 16.5 and Danico Autry with 11.5 from Tennessee. Dude, it's up here. It's hard to hinder our expectations for this team, right? We said last year, let's have fun. We weren't supposed to be here. Now the expectations are here, man. Also, thanks for having me on, bro. This is fun.
Oh, of course, man. I mean, like I said, man, this is what the show is all about, because I always try to find a silver lining to everything. And this is where I've got my proof. I've got people who are that close with all the teams, and that's where it's all fan-driven experience from here. So Absolutely. when you look at CJ Stroud, and I mean the top 10 list of quarterbacks, and in my defense, it's hard for me to put, a player who last year was his rookie season, but it was phenomenal, and I do hope that if we got the same numbers, if not even bigger, of production this year, I think you can make an argument he's a top 10 quarterback right now. But when you look at his production level and the skill set and the mindset that he has, not a whole lot of expectation, so there's not a whole lot of pressure. He then has to get comfortable. And Bobby Slowick, he has really developed into what I Bleav is a franchise quarterback for years and years beyond.
No, facts. And, here's the thing. We brought back Bobby Sloak. He was getting interviews to be a head coach. We gave him a bit of a pay raise. We also brought back our quarterback coach, Gerard Johnson, who's been with CJ Stroud since high school, right? When they were on the Elite 11. So we gave him a pay raise to stay, and he's going to be our offensive coordinator next year when Bobby Sloak goes off to be a head coach. But, man, you said it right. There wasn't no expectations, and I think that was a part of why CJ Stroud was so great. No one believed in the Houston Texans. There were articles that say that CJ Stroud went to the worst situation possible. Then they switched it up when they saw Bryce Young getting his ass kicked every single week with that offensive line. Now it's, of course, CJ Stroud was going to be good. Absolutely not, dude. What this kid has overcome, not only his short time in the NFL, but he didn't start till he was a junior in high school. He didn't even get scouted at Ohio State until his boy put him on, and he didn't start till late in his career also. Nothing has been given to Coleridge Bernard Stroud. He's worked for everything, and we are seeing these types of moments where you get big pieces because, like you said, if he not figures it out, but if he has similar numbers to year 2, we're talking about a top 10 quarterback, right? And that's one of the things that a lot of opposing fan bases are hoping, that there's this sophomore slump, right? I've already seen the number of people compare CJ Stroud to Dak Prescott. It absolutely pisses me off, but the Texans prepared for that. I mentioned they brought back Bobby Sloak. They brought back Gerard Johnson. They bring back Dalton Schultz on a 3-year deal. They bring in Joe Mixon. They bring in Stephon Diggs. And it's like you did everything in your power to make sure that if there is a sophomore slump, you brought in key weapons that can take the pressure off of a young guy. It should have happened last year. You found out that this young dude could do it by himself. Now you gave him help, and now let's see, like, I have always been saying this, we have yet to see the full potential of this Houston Texan offense, and I hope we get to see it this season.
So 2 parts to this, offensively and defensively. Let's start with the offense. So
Nasty.
Nick Caserio, I mean, he's been cooking. I mean, the fact that he comes from a New England blueprint, that
a winning culture.
Winning culture. Okay. Oh, yeah. And so he comes in and brings a franchise that people just kind of left in the back burner and now are potential contending threats. So let's start with the Stephon Diggs deal. I felt like Nick Caserio has done smart business with the Diggs situation because they bought out his contract, and I feel like they're saying to him, hey, we like having you here up on this roster. If you could prove to us that you're here to win a championship, not so much to go and chase the bag, because we know there was some baggage in Buffalo that was kind of the concern. But I feel like that if Diggs is in here, because we saw what Tank Dell has done, we've seen what Nico Collins and even Noah Brown and Dalton Schultz has done. It's not like they're that desperate to put all the weight on Stephon Diggs. So when you think about this, how do you kind of see this play out with Diggs a part of this stacked roster?
It was interesting when we did make that trade, right? We were also in conversations with Keenan Allen and the Chargers, but you find out that the process of Stephon Diggs, took quite a bit of a couple months. There was a clip of him at the Pro Bowl, and he's talking to CJ Stroud like, "Oh, you're slinging it in Houston," and that's where the conversations kind of started. But then when you go through the trade process, you find out that him and Lerman Tunsil were vacationing in the offseason. We're just consistently together. You find out that he was talking to multiple Houston Texans players and a former Houston Texan wide receiver who was retired. Who was that? Andre Johnson, who just got into the Hall of Fame. So it was, all right, Stephon Diggs. There's obviously interest, right? Then you see the whole Antonio Brown, ESPN thing. Ever since he's been here, though, Stephon Diggs has been a leader. Now, I did not expect this. I thought he was going to be, I'm here to just get a Super Bowl, then get a bag after. It's been training camp, and he has been working with the young guys every single day. After there was a quote unquote fight altercation yesterday at training camp. Now, I've been at every single training camp that's been available to the public. Stephon Diggs, if anything, was the victim here. Jimmy Ward lets him up as he's going down. Dalton Schultz gets up, has some words for Jimmy Ward, because in last year's training camp, Jimmy Ward knocked out Dalton Schultz. So that was kind of like, hey, I remember this happened to me last year, but I'm not Stephon Diggs. Don't be hitting, our franchise guys. So I love it. He's been a leader here. It was very interesting when we voided the final 2 years of his contract, but like I think you summed it up perfect. Like, show me you're here to win. And, like, let's be honest, if it doesn't work out here for Diggs, is it going to work out anywhere else for him at this point in his career? But so far, it's only been a couple of weeks, man. It looks good. We just have to see what happens when, the season kicks off. There's obviously baggage there, but so far it's working out great. So far.
I'm hoping that this definitely works in its favor. And I mean, with the way that the Texans have been playing the offseason and the way they've been playing now in the last year and a half, I mean, this is definitely building for a recipe for success. So when you look at Joe Mixon, now a part of this running back group with Dameon Pierce, I think this is arguably a very good, considerable duo running back threat, because the fact that Pierce brings, power, he brings pop, and Joe Mixon, what we've seen in his days in Cincinnati, he's very elusive. He's very much a guy that finds those holes, so when you think of this running back group, what do we expect up out of this? Because I think this is definitely a two-headed monster. People should very much be keeping their eyes on as far as for fantasy production.
Yeah, well, you hope it is right now. Just to let you guys know, Joe Mixon has been practicing the last 4 days, a soft tissue injury, but DeMeco Ryans is not concerned about that. Dameon Pierce has looked good. And, he said it himself. He said this last year right before the playoffs. I expect to be better in this system next year. We know what, OC Bobby Slowick runs. It's similar to Miami with Coach McDaniels. It's similar with, to San Francisco with with Shanahan. This type of offense needs a patient running back. And that's exactly right. You hit it right on the head. That's exactly what Joe Mixon brings. And I think he's going to just revitalize this, this Houston Texans running game. I mentioned just a couple of days ago that we only had 3 100-yard rushing performances all year. They weren't from Dameon Pierce. They were from Devin Singletary. But the Houston Texans were 3-0 in those games. If you get a consistent running game this season, and if Dameon Pierce does in fact figure it out, this is going to be a damn good rushing attack. Because think about it, right? They're going to want to play the secondary back. They're going to be scared of Nico. They're going to be scared of Tank and Stephon. And Joe Mixon is just going to make them feel dumb. And I'm just excited to see how it plays out. I really don't know what to expect from this Houston Texan offense, besides the fact that they have to be one of the best units in the NFL. If they're not, then I'm going to say, all right, what's going on here? You got 3 legit number ones, a good tight end, and a good running back. But this running game should be dynamic. And, with Joe Mixon, he's your best running back talent-wise since Arian Foster. Because not only can he be patient and give you 1,000 yards, but Joe Mixon is a fantastic pass catcher as well.
Oh, yeah, 100%. And I think, going into this type of offense, this is a team that I just really would love to see the first 5-6 weeks. That's normal for any team that comes in, they start cooking. You could see how this offense flows by how the offensive coordinator really puts things together, and then how DeMeco attacks a lot of those trench warfares that you really got to win each down that you're in. So defensively, because we know this is DeMeco's recipe of success from here. Yes. So watching football for as long as I can, for as long as I've been kind of in the know it all, I've paid attention to this Houston Texans defense for years and years, from Mario Williams, DeMeco Ryans,
what a pull,
Brian Cushing, and J.J. Watt.
Yes.
I look at this Texans defense with adding Will Anderson last year. Now you add Danielle Hunter, Danico Autry. I'd also say Azeez El-Shahir and a couple others. And then even adding a rookie, Kamari Lassiter, onto this roster. I mean, this defense it's like DeMeco, he hasn't lost his touch when he's played on a very good defense that was exciting to watch. So when you look at the defense when he played and to what he's built together this year, man, this is a defense that is hungry and ready for any kind of offensive opponent that come their way.
Yeah, I think when you realize DeMeco Ryans was that dude on the defensive side of the ball, the playoff moment against the Browns when he's talking to linebacker Christian Harris, and he's like, if you stay right here and look up, it's going to be an interception. And literally the next play after it happened, Christian Harris picks it off, takes it to the crib. That shows you right there that DeMeco Ryans knows what he is doing. When you look at this defense, man, and we're having conversations about this being one of the best edge rushing duos in the NFL. We did not really get to see a full season of Jadeveon Clowney and JJ Watt together. And, if one was healthy, the other one was out for the year. You add the defensive rookie of the year, Will Anderson Jr., what Daniel Hunter, 16.5 sacks. And, dude, they were absolutely destroying the offensive line today. CJ Stroud was frustrated, right? He had to get on his offensive line. As soon as he got the ball, Daniel Hunter and Will Anderson Jr. were right in his face. Azeez Al-Shaair, right? If he gets signed on any other team, that's their big free agency, free agency signing. Azeez Al-Shaair came in day 2 for us. Now, if you remember, he was all the way back in San Francisco under DeMeco Ryans. He was an undrafted free agent, learns from him. Tried to come last year, money couldn't work out, goes to Tennessee, becomes their leader in franchise tackles, in just 1 year. And, you also look at our secondary, dude. You have Derek Stingley. And the only thing about Stingley is, can you give me a 17-game season, man? You have yet to be healthy. Jalen Petrie, there's something interesting going on with him. It seems like he's playing more in the slot role towards the line of scrimmage. So you bring up Kamari Lassiter, and I think he is going to be our starting cornerback number 2. But our other rookie, safety, Kalen Bullock from USC, who we drafted in the 3rd round, the past 2 days, he's been getting first-team reps next to Jimmy Ward. So the Houston Texans, man, they might throw in there a secondary with 2 rookies, but you just hope that front 4 is just elite, man.
Oh, man, when I saw that pick for safety, I was like, that is the most underrated pick that I think that the Texans could ever put on that roster, knowing what they came off of last year and building that tough secondary that's there to basically play those cover roles, but then are not afraid to play a lot of that one-on-one, man-to-man coverage ones to really kind of piss off a lot of these opposing receivers. So, training camp, and every NFL fan, myself included, we are so excited that football season is back.
Baby.
And it is, I think it's going to be stacked bigger and better than ever. So from experiences being in training camp, I mean, there's many things that you could point out that you find in training camp that not a lot of people get a chance to see unless preseason and even in the season. So I think a lot of those training camps, because I know people are kind of going back and forth, well, what do we need preseason for, all this other stuff? So from your perspective with training camps and how things pan out for these players, there's a lot of things that there's a lot of things you take in that you kind of evaluate. Like we like to play a little bit of scouting, right?
For sure.
We like to scout out a lot of these players and, see what the silver lining is for a lot of them. So I feel like in training camp, it's definitely an experience worthwhile going to. I mean, I live in Denver and I'm only a few minutes from Broncos training facility. And, again, I think, and now I'm no Bronco fan myself. I've been bolting up with the Chargers since I was 7. So I'm like,
shout out to you, bro.
Yeah. So when you think about that, I mean, this is an experience of a lifetime. You get a chance to see the players. You see how this offensive defense really match up. I mean, what are your takeaways for training camps?
Look, man, training camp, you see things that you normally do not see. And for the casual fan, the only thing they get to see about this Houston Texans team is what plays on Sunday from 12 to 3:30. when you go to training camp, you see the coaches, right? You see the owners. It's like you build kind of a connection with these guys. And you talked about moments during training camp that no one else sees. The day I knew we were going to be special, bro, I promise you, hand of God strike me down. We sang happy birthday to D'Amico Ryans. It was the first day of training camp last year, and he was walking down the stairs, right? He didn't know this was happening, but we all stomped. We sang him happy birthday, and, his face lit up. He has the whitest smile I've ever seen. And it's like, okay, this is not the same old Houston Texans with David Culley and Lovie Smith and, oh my God, Bill O'Brien. This is a new team. And after we sing D'Amico Ryans happy birthday, you see freaking number 7 walk down, and you're just like, I'm older than CJ. And I'm just like, holy hell, this dude is a completely different animal. Training camp, it's fun. It is a grind, though. I'm not gonna lie. The past 4 days, I've been waking up around 4 in the morning, getting to the stadium at 4:45. But I just do it for the love of this team, man. If you can get to training camp, please do, because it's not always about the stars, right? Of course, It's always fun to go and get their stuff, but when you get to see your punter just hang 5 straight 5-second punts in the air, you're just like, bro, this is different, right? When you get to see your offensive linemen, kind of just work one-on-ones with Will Anderson Jr. and Daniil Hunter, you're like, bro, these guys are going at it. And we've had 2 training camp fights the past 2 days. And it's just like, all right, these boys are ready. It's so much fun going to training camp, right? However, the past 3 days, Snake, it's been raining, man. I've been soaked, bro. But it's for the love of the game.
Yeah, I know. I mean, shoot, Denver up out here, we just started getting some sprinkles, but there is some chances up of some rainstorms. But, again, I mean, that's where the gridiron football really comes from. I mean, no matter what storm it is, it ain't stopping these boys. These boys are going to these guys are going to be training and ready for the next NFL season. And so, what's funny? What's one thing I look for is, what is my culture build? Because right now, people are sleeping up on the Chargers with what Jim Harbaugh's done in Michigan. And I just seen this man at his age pull a 330-pound offensive lineman on the lines. And I'm like, oh, yeah, this culture's different. This is one that, like, nobody is really, really talking about. So when I think about that, the culture build, players are bought in. Yeah, you're going to have some altercations and some fights here and there, but it's passion. It's passion for a lot of these players. They want to succeed, they want to win, and they want to really get the championship vibe. So 2 questions firing up at you. So this is obviously the question I'm sure you've been getting a lot of the more you've been going live up on it and giving your perspective. But is this all the weapons, offensively and defensively, to not go win a title, but to go and beat the team that's trying to three-peat the title? That's Kansas City.
When you look at the Kansas City Chiefs, man, there's, you have to call them the Empire. They really are taking over. And I do believe the Houston Texans have done enough to throw a punch and have the Chiefs done. Whether or not they win the fight is going to depend on coaching and everything else. If there is one more acquisition, it would be Justin Simmons, who is a free agent currently. Yep. From what we've heard, the Texans have shown interest, and that's why maybe, right, conspiracy theory, right, we've seen Jalen Petrie work in the slot closer to the line of scrimmage. We signed Justin Simmons maybe during the preseason, bring him back there. But if not, the Houston Texans done enough on the offensive side to, go toe-to-toe with anyone. Like I mentioned, they broke, first team in NFL history, 1,000-yard rusher, receiver, and double-digit sacks. I think, man, it's really going to come down to the year 3 guys. If Dameon Pierce, if Kenyon Green, if Jalen Petrie can figure it out, it's over. It really is, because we're not talking about those guys currently, because all those guys had a horrible year too. It took you 5 weeks to realize Dameon Pierce does not understand this system. Kenyon Green was out for the year. Jalen Petrie got benched. Those guys figured it out along with what you added. Dude, yes, we've done enough.
Oh, man, if that comes to a case, and look, I'm loving with what Houston has done. But if that becomes a case with Justin Simmons coming into a stacked roster like this, I'm throwing my hat in the air and I'm like, oh, it's over. It's all over. This is H-Town is bringing bringing the house down. So I'm sure you probably already have. But that new look of Texans gear, man. I mean, there you go. There it is. There it is. How clean is that? Because, I mean, the red and even with just the horns there on the shoulders. And, man, I love their all navy that they got. And then the H on the helmet.
The blue one.
Man, that's got to get me feeling fired up because I've always used the quote that many players have used. Like, look, if you look good, you're going to play good. And then when you play good, they pay good as well. So Texans fans, I mean, they're amped up with this new look, this new culture, and this new vibe. I mean, I'm loving these unis, man. This is one that I'm like, H-Town, you better get geared up and strap up because we're going for a long ride this year.
Dude, this is the second jersey I've ever owned since the GOAT Andre Johnson. So I've only owned two, number 80 and number 7. And we've been waiting for new uniforms for a very, very long time. This is the first time in our franchise history we'll be wearing new threads. And like you said, new uniforms, new coach, new culture. This isn't the same old Houston Texans that were laughing stocks, that were afraid to make moves, that would win. That would lose the big game. And you crushed that narrative in just 1.5 years. So the uniforms, I love them. The red one, red's my favorite color. I've always been a fan of red. But that H-Town blue, man, that helmet, right? What got me infatuated with it was when the sun hits that H-Town blue helmet, you're going to see red sparkles because there's glitter, red glitter. And I'm like, bro, dude, that's badass. Like that's insane. Like all it takes is for one guy with a little starlight filter to take a camera and you'll see like red diamonds around CJ Stroud's head. And they had a whole uniform party. I was lucky to be there in attendance. They put out a slab. They had Slim Thug, Paul Wall, Zero, H-Town legends, man. And dude, it's all different here. It's up here in H.
God, man, I love the fire. I love the passion. And, like I said, with football around the corner, I mean, we've waited this long, like every year, to finally be here in football season. Yes. And, look, I've grown up a baseball guy and like, I love baseball, but that time when postseason gets there, it's football season from here on out. And I'm glued up on it. Appreciate you coming on by, Ruben. And where can people find you when you gotta believe in those Texans?
Man, just type in 713 Houston Sportcast on YouTube and I pop up everywhere. Trying to get to 15K subscribers by week 1. It's we're about 3,000 away, but we're trying to get there. H-Town till we drown, man. Thank you for having me on, dude. Your whole setup is fantastic. I'm impressed, dude. You had like a WWE intro. It was badass.
See, you're already trying to get to 15K. I'm trying to get to 1K on everything.
Don't stop.
Man.
It's a grind. Don't stop posting, bro. Like that's all I could, just give you some advice. Just don't stop. Like for 2 years, dude, it was every day, and that was just a video. Now shorts got released. Now reels got released. Now TikTok. Yep. So it's a little bit of a grind, but when you love what you're doing, I mean, and look, like you have the Knights, you have the Angels, you have the Chargers. So you have a lot of content to talk about, man. Just don't stop, bro. And let's get to the top together, dude, in like 10 years.
Yep. My goal, and this has been my dream job, to be on television and radio broadcast. I'm trying to be up there with the cowherds of the world. Because I'm telling you, I've been nabbed as America's honesty mind. I got to be honest with a lot of this stuff, but that's what produces a lot of that dough,
Hell yeah.
So appreciate you stopping on by, Ruben. I'm excited for this season. Let's go Texans, and we'll see what the season pans out for them. Take care, my man.
Absolutely. Have a blessed day, brother.